Welcome to the Relocated South African, the podcast that explores the journeys of South Africans building lives and careers around the world. I'm your host, Jan Hugo, speaking to you from Lagos in Portugal. Today I'm joined by Francisca Lombard, a South African entrepreneur who made the move to Canada and is now the founder of MindGPT, an artificial intelligence platform in the mining sector. Sounds like a mouthful. I don't even know exactly how artificial intelligence works, but we're going to find out today.
There is a moment in every relocation journey when the excitement gives way to admin. At Apostle, we help South Africans at home and abroad get the documents and visas they need for travel and immigration, whether it is a police clearance, an apostille, and a bridge certificate, or visa paperwork. We help turn that moment from overwhelming to manageable. Visit apostle.co.za or email clients at apostle.co.za. Documents with convenience.
Welcome, Francisca.
Jan, I'm excited to be here.
It's so lekker. As always, I start with where'd you grow up, go to school, and study?
Well, I grew up in Heidelberg. It's a small town outside of Johannesburg on a dairy farm of all places. I went, I'm a proud Folkie, for school that's there, and I studied at Stellenbosch, the University of Stellenbosch. So I'm also a very proud Marty and part of the Marty chapter also here, and take part in all the alumni events that I can.
Oh, Stellenbosch. When we left South Africa, we were living in Stellenbosch. So can't tell me enough about Stellenbosch. What a beautiful place. You studied chemical engineering or mining engineering?
I did chemical engineering or process engineering. And I did, whilst I was working, I was part-time also doing a postgrad through TICS in metallurgical engineering. So that put me smack bang in the mineral processing sector. I started off on a coal mine of all places, and then eventually got to the growth department of that mining company and was able to then work on several mines, and that's how it all started, I guess.
Wow, that's interesting. And when did you decide to leave South Africa?
I decided to leave South Africa. The decision and the moment of departure, two different things. As you know, it takes time to apply for these things. And when I was just fishing for places to go, I decided on Canada for very simple reasons. It's lowest UV radiation, as well as it's the easiest to get in if you have a professional degree that Canada is looking for, because you can come then without needing a job on this side, whereas all other places you need to actually secure a job first and then be sponsored to go over. So it's a bit different. You go through the permanent residency program and then you get permanent residency, and you can then make the decision, are you going to take it and take the jump and move or not? And so I did decide to take the jump in 2017. So I've been here now for quite a while already. Still not acclimatized to minus 19 though in winter time, but oh well.
And have you by now got a Canadian passport?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
That makes life a lot easier, isn't it? I mean, just the ability to travel and get around with a different passport.
Yes and no. I mean, the South African passport at least actually was a benefit for me in my first bit of my career here, because I was working on Russian projects and I was able to go to Russia and back without a visa because of my South African passport, whilst all the Canadians had to apply for visas to go to Russia. So don't dismiss the value that the South African passport can bring to you.
Oh, I must say, you're the first one with a positive word about Ikhurun Mamba. That is amazing. But I suppose, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because, and also just thinking about career-wise, Canada's got a massive mining industry. I don't think everybody knows that, but I mean, there is a massive mining industry.
Well, it's true, because 46% of the global publicly listed mining companies are listed on either the Toronto Stock Exchange or the Venture Exchange. So that means that it is almost like a hub of mining, just because the asset doesn't need to be located within Canada, but if the company is registered here, it means that you have to comply to a lot of the regulations associated with it, which means there's a lot of just mining related work that happens in Canada for the whole global industry, really.
Yeah, a lot of exploration starts there, isn't it, in terms of capital raising and getting going on that exchange.
Yes, 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 yes. The junior mining market is quite big, um, and yeah, well, I mean that's a big deal for a lot of people. They can make a lot of money, especially if you pick the right ones initially. I myself hope to in the future become a little bit more active on the junior mining investment field. Um, but yeah, for now, up to this point, I was just the one working in terms of actually compiling those regulatory forms that you have to do whenever you do exploration, to doing your resource estimate, your pre-feasibility, feasibility, etc.
Hmm. And you said Canada obviously was the easier. Did you look at other locations?
I did. I looked at the US, I looked at Australia, I looked at New Zealand also. So I did weigh my options up quite a lot. And again, it's just that requirement of needing to actually have a secure position somewhere is quite restrictive because not a lot, unless you win the green card lottery in the USA, which is also super hard because so many people from globally apply for that. It is hard to just get into a company, especially if you don't have somebody to vouch for you necessarily, for you to be able to then relocate to another place.
Amazingly, one of the people I interviewed early on in the podcast, they actually won it from South Africa, that lottery, and she's very active on X, and she's helping a lot of these Afrikaans people that go to America with finding jobs and so on. But yeah, that was amazing. I've never heard of that before. So
Wow.
I always thought it was a scam. So yeah, there's one. So when you arrived in Canada, did you have a job at that time, or were you looking?
No, so I was busy doing commissioning of a diamond plant in Cullinan, and I resigned from that company that I was working for, the EPCM company, came over to Canada, and 2 weeks later started working for the same company, but in Canada. They just happened to have a position open that I was perfect for. So I was just really, really lucky. Excuse my Afrikaans, but ek het met my gat in die botter geval.
Daai een verstaan ek. That is, I mean, that's amazing. And they didn't kind of know that you were coming across. It wasn't through the company,
No,
completely
no,
independently.
no. So on my
Or
CV, it looks like I just, went from one position and took a vacation of a month, then started to another.
I, I,
So,
I think you should apply for that lottery. You could, with that kind of luck, that is amazing. And I mean, people always say, "Why did you leave South Africa? Was it a push or a pull? What was kind of behind it?"
I, I, I can't say that there was one big thing that pushed me to go, that I felt like I needed to leave South Africa per se, but my brother, he passed away from cancer, and and he was not even yet 35 when that happened. So I had this feeling of, well, old age isn't guaranteed. So do you want to just play it safe, or do you want to maybe just take a chance? And I had married early, gotten a divorce early, and as I was, finalizing all of that post-divorce things, I decided, well, why not just actually just go somewhere? I never intended to make it permanent. That I never had in mind. I just wanted to just actually see more of the world, and maybe work internationally, because I always wanted to just work a little bit internationally, especially in a mining career. That can be very beneficial for your career as well. Never thinking that I'm going to end up staying here, but now I'm here, and now I'm here to stay, basically.
And you're married to a Canadian now.
Yes, I am. So that's why I say now I'm here to stay.
Okay, and you've got a little girl, you said.
Yes, yes. So um, it's beautiful. The thing is, that trying to have kids here in Canada also just changes your perspective completely, because everything that you grew up with, oh, just go play outside, that whereas mine is 19, you just
Mm,
can't do that. So
mm,
it
mm.
you kind of have to start getting very creative with regards to, um, okay, well, what do you do with kids when it's 6 months of winter? So yeah, it's a bit rough still for me. I know that I need to harden up a little bit more, but I don't think I'll ever get used to this cold ever.
No, I can just imagine. And you mentioned that your family is still in South Africa. How difficult was that part of the journey of leaving family behind?
I think that in all honesty, making this job, I did not realize what I was doing. Um, you you just go because you go on vacations and you come back and all of that, and you think, oh, it's nothing just to quickly go to a different country and it's easy. But then you land here and then you realize, okay, you have no support system. You can't just quickly pick up the phone and call your parents when you want to, because it's in the middle of the night. There's a 7 to 8 hour time zone difference. So whenever you are down after work, you can't just quickly pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, I just want to hear your voice," or something like that. You're just completely alone. So it was quite a harsh realization that, okay, no, this is actually big and major, and it's not easy because there's no direct flights from Canada also to South Africa, which means to go home is quite a mission.
Mm.
Which also means that it's not that easy for people to also come and visit necessarily. So yeah, I'd say that I definitely didn't know what I was getting into. I just thought like, oh, I'm gonna have an adventure, but it's quite rough, really, being so far from family and friends, and especially being in a completely different time zone. That really makes it also hard to just catch up and stay in contact with people.
Yeah, it's almost people I've spoken to, like in New Zealand, they almost have to make a specific time to talk to their family and to see them. And I
Mm.
can just imagine it is quite difficult. And you have your parents or family, have they been over to see you? Or
Yes, but it was such a big mission just to get visas to come and visit. My dad's visa, I think it took 2.5 years for his visitor's visa to get approved. So because Canada, they go through phases where you know, everybody complains about binnelandse sake in South Africa, but you know, it's not the only place in the world where things are not necessarily
Mm,
efficient. So
no, listen, I think that's the one thing that we all, especially if you leave, is red tape. Red tape is just a fact of life. And I've often spoken to people in South Africa and they say, oh, we'll leave one day when this happens or that happens. And I say, it's not that easy. You can't just leave. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen, and red tape and dealing with governments and dealing with officials. There's nie vir sissies nie, absolutely. It's I mean, I have to say the family thing cuts through every conversation. People really, really miss their families. People leave for different reasons, but not having that support network, I think, is people underestimate how bad it is, especially if things go wrong, or something goes wrong in South Africa and you can't get there quickly. Trust me, it's
no,
not
no,
easy.
it's rough. It's rough. It's rough. Yeah.
Anyway, and before we get to the business and so on, obviously you mentioned the weather, but other than that, how different is life in Canada to what you used to in South Africa?
It's night and day, I would say. The one thing that I appreciate about South Africans is the fact that you can as a society, they people go out on weekends and actually enjoy themselves. There's more of a culture where people can relax and look at the more beautiful part of life. But Canada is built upon immigrants. So it means that you have the majority of the people around you all just hustling and trying to get ahead. So it's very, very busy, and it's a very fast pace, and you don't necessarily have the same type of environment where people can just have enough time to just relax, meet up with friends, go and have a coffee, and there isn't necessarily also the same amount of infrastructure for that. South Africa being a tourist hub, you don't actually appreciate just what it actually means for your own personal convenience, really, because all the touristy things that are there that are meant to attract tourists is what you also get to go and do on weekends, and you get to go and go to nice restaurants, go to nice coffee shops. Oh, just let's just quickly go and see some wild animals, etc., etc. Whereas, if you move to a country that is not necessarily a tourist hub or location, you miss that part. I think that people really underestimate just the value that, especially the Soccer World Cup, all the infrastructure that came from that, just did to South African society. So it's different. Everything is faster, and just having to live in a place which is built for 6 months of minus temperatures. It also just means that the infrastructure is different. If a lot of things are indoors, whereas as a South African, you like being outdoors, etc., etc. So it's night and day, really. It is night and day, and that makes me miss South Africa more and more.
We all do, absolutely. And because in South Africa, you can even be outside in winter. It's not like
But
that.
what is winter in South Africa is what is a very beautiful spring day here.
What are weekends like? So if it's now weekend, you've got a little kiddie, and you've got a very busy life, a work week. So how do you guys spend weekends?
Well, in Canada, you have to spend at least one day doing your admin, cleaning your house, doing all of those things. You have to do all the work. But depending on whether or not the weather is nice, we would like to, go out and go for either a hike or something. But in wintertime, for example, you'll go with her to an indoor playground or things like that. Because yeah, at certain minus temperatures, you can only be outside for that long before it becomes dangerous, really. So weekends in itself, I think that I in the future really want to just spend more time just driving to places. But again, it's not that there are so many places to go, like in an hour's drive, as what you would find in South Africa necessarily, which is something that I really miss. But we are very blessed, though. We are within 40 minutes from what is wine country here. We are within either direction, 40 minutes from lakes, etc. So there's still beauty here. But yeah, you have to drive to get to somewhere that is nice and calm, and not hustle bustle city.
Yeah, I can just imagine. And cost of living wise, how does it compare to South Africa?
Ah, it it doesn't compare, really. I remember the one big mistake that I made coming here is people told me, oh no, give away your stuff and sell your stuff, because it's going to be much cheaper to buy everything new on that side versus shipping it over. Biggest mistake. Honestly, everything is 10 times more expensive than anything in South Africa. And even when I speak to friends back home, they don't really understand what I mean by that, because one tomato, you go to the store, you buy one tomato, and then that costs what 2 bags of tomatoes back home would have been. But I mean, if you think about it, also in Canada, absolutely everything has to be imported, because for most of the year, it's cold, so it's not like you have growing seasons, etc. So, and it's not like when there is some produce that happens in summertime, like they're just going to drop the prices. So it just consistently stays extremely high. So it's hard when you have a professional career. You work very hard. Your husband works very hard, has a professional career, yet, you know, what is considered luxury here, and we have a decent lifestyle here, is, if you look at the South African equivalent, you know, we would have been able to live in luxury there compared to what is just here. We our house is very average. We are in a very average neighborhood, yet it costs a ridiculous amount of money.
That's very, very true. There's a price to making this move. It's not that easy. Just you had your daughter in Canada, so you'll be a perfect person to talk about medical care and having a child there. And what was your experience of that?
I personally am not a proponent of the free healthcare in Canada. I mean, so in Canada, it's a socialistic society. So the unfortunate thing about the public healthcare is no private healthcare is allowed at all, even here. So you don't even have an option. You go to the queue, and you are in the back of the queue, and whether or not you are a minister, or whether or not you are a street sweep, you are in the slot in the queue that you get, and then you get help whenever there's help. And because it's also all public and free, the resources get stretched quite a lot. So to give you an example, people actually they will get terminal diagnoses, but then they have to then wait a year before they can see a specialist so that they can get medication for the first time to treat that. So it's our healthcare system is crumbling, and there's nothing really that we can do about it. The hospital, and the giving birth experience. I had a friend who gave birth a day before me in South Africa. Her hospital room was so beautiful. She sent me pictures, and then mine was not clean, and it was not great. It again, I mean, it's a G7 country, but it was an awful experience, to be fair.
It's so interesting because I had a lady on the podcast a while ago, and she left from Canada after 23 years to go back to South Africa. She's got a special needs child, and she said the care it's there. They give you money, but you can't get an appointment. And she went back to South Africa for that reason. She's a single mother, so that's actually quite rough to hear, I must say. Is that something that you think? I mean, if you have to think, okay, I don't want to live here anymore. Is that something that would make you leave to go back to South Africa?
I mean, me and my husband have these conversations quite frequently, though he is not open to moving to South Africa, even though I'm like, okay, well, we would be able to live quite a nice life there. But yeah, that definitely is a driver. I mean, whilst pregnant, I had a black spot, and I was like, there's something wrong here. So I went to my doctor, and I had it cut out, and then it turned out that it was actually skin cancer. It was melanoma. So despite the fact that I had a melanoma diagnosis, I was not able to get in with a dermatologist anyway at all. When I had a referral in, it got rejected twice. And well, I was sitting here, I was like, well, what am I supposed to do, really? So we did find a private skin cancer clinic where you can then go and you can pay for a scan out of pocket, and they can scan for moles, but it's you can't get in with a dermatologist even after you've now actually had a mole removed that was melanoma, and that's
Wow,
the great thing.
that is amazing.
Yeah.
Bef- uh, just a quick one on just friends. You now in a bit of a different position to South Africans who arrive as just South Africans. You've married a Canadian person, so you obviously have Canadian friends through his connections. But when you arrived there, a lot of people go on these Facebook groups and they try and they get help. There's a lot of help, but I've certainly found that not every South African that's here has the same values that I have. They may have immigrated, but and that's a realization I came to. I thought, oh well, you've also left. You also think the way I do, but they don't. And so, what was your experience of that with arriving and connecting and so on?
Yeah, no, so I tried some of these groups when I arrived, and I very quickly realized that I am not going to continue with that because I found that there was just a lot of negativity and people talking ill about South Africa when, I don't necessarily have any any hatred or bitterness or anything towards the country. Uh, so I just don't want to be part of then a group that chooses to make every conversation a conversation about South Africa and make it a negative one. So I decided to go the route of just making new friends and not necessarily looking out for the South African ones, because also some of the groups that I joined on Facebook seems to be more targeted towards people trying to advertise to other people and trying to exploit them versus actually, being a community. And that's really sad for me because I look then at, there's Italian communities and, then there's Polish communities and all of these things and people get together and it seems like it's just more of a community vibe versus as South Africans, um, I don't know, we seem to take all of our differences that we harbored in South Africa and just take it with us versus, just seeing the positive and the community part and trying to find, that goodness out there. So um I have made good South African friends though too. So I can't say that that's all people.
Mm, mm,
But
mm.
but it's just these communities can actually be quite deceiving and disappointing really also, which is unfortunate.
It's so strange because Justinus, I think, has spoken about South Africans in South Africa who are negative about us having left. People slag us off and say, "Why you shouldn't have," or whatever. And on the other hand, you have South Africans living abroad trying to justify their decision with any bad news about South Africa. Kind of makes them feel better. And ultimately, it's a decision that you make based on what's right for you. So I think people should respect that. But maybe it's a South African thing. I don't know. Now let's get to your business. I mean, I'm fascinated by MindGPT. I've looked at it. Let me just say, I don't fully understand this AI thing. I use it a lot, but my goodness. Did you think it would? Do you think it would have been possible to build this business in South Africa? Just start there.
Well, yes, I will say that. Well, it's just AI is remarkable. And my whole AI journey started. I mean, just 2 years ago, I knew nothing about AI at all. But I had my daughter, and whilst I was sitting in the nursing chair, getting bored out of my mind, I decided to because I'm just not the type. I can't just sit and watch series over and over again or something like that. So I started to fiddle, and then I discovered AI, and then I started to fiddle and fiddle more. And the hardest part was to try and think of an application of AI within the experience range that I have, which is within mining. But anybody, anywhere in the world can grab this opportunity now and use AI to build whatever they want. And that's the most incredible thing. Yes, my experience in Canada is what actually made me capable of doing this. And specifically because I'm in Canada and was able to work with NI 43 101s, which is the regulatory filing that you have to make if you a Canadian listed company. That experience, I wouldn't have had it if I stayed in South Africa, and I would not have been able to build MindGPT. So fair enough, yes, I would have never been able to build this company, but But AI, at this point in time, it can take somebody who knows nothing about development, and if you have the determination and you're willing to work hard, you can actually build anything now, which is the incredible thing. So whatever your experience base is, and you're sitting in South Africa, if you have internet and you have access to, Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok, um, DeepSeek, then you can build anything. Truly,
Wow,
truly.
that's amazing. Maybe just explain in one or two sentences what your business actually does, because I went straight for AI, but I know it's an AI business, but maybe you can just explain.
Well, even in explaining it, because it's just so foreign, it still is going to sound so foreign, really, because nobody is used to this anymore, yet, sorry. So it's an agentic intelligence system for the mining industry. So what I built in simple terms is I took all of these regulatory filings that you have to file when you now do exploration, when you do build your resource model, whenever you have these different studies that you have to do as part of mining projects, massive reports get generated from that. Some reports are like 600 pages long, so it's enormous, and that it is so rich in technical data. So I took all of that and I built an AI brain that is filled with all this knowledge that is just mining industry related knowledge. And then what MindGPT is then the interface where you can then interact with that mining focused brain. It doesn't have any other junk about, recipes or how to do an oil change or, any of these things that you can get from general LLMs. It doesn't have any of that in. So that you can actually just get um, a real answer that is not hallucinated, that is very technical and focused for the mining industry when you then interact with MindGPT. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
absolutely. It's fascinating. And in terms of clients and so on, have you already got clients in South Africa in the mining industry?
I have people who are interested from the South African mining industry side. I've had some meetings with folks in the mining industry because there is some assets there. And again, people who work for a company in South Africa might have assets from all across the world, and they might be working for a Canadian listed company. I have had interest from there. I have had interest from you know Saudi Arabia, from Chile, from a couple of interesting places really, because the mining industry, what makes it so unique is the fact that it is global, and whether or not you now work for a supplier of equipment, you can be making pumps, or you can be making uh, truck tires, or otherwise you can be an engineer who's has specialized for some form of a field within the mining industry, or you can even be, I was interacting the other day with environmental lawyers. It's so wide. A lot of the interest comes though from people who are also retail investors, though, especially with the Canadian, like we mentioned earlier, the Canadian indices being one of the places where people especially play with junior mining investment.
And this brain that you've built, I mean, thinking of as an accountant, does if I wanted to extract a 600-page report, would it actually summarize it into can it summarize that in and take out the essentials? Because that's obviously part of the benefit of AI.
Yeah, so what makes it really unique is if you now take data and if you just take a PDF and you feed it to ChatGPT, ChatGPT will read from it top to bottom. And when it answers you, it'll give you the first relevant answer. So the first time it hits anything that is relevant to your answer, that's what it's going to provide. By loading all of this information into a brain, if you think about your brain is a neural network that fires, and it has different nodes that connect and talk to each other. So when you now ask in MindGPT questions for MindGPT about a 600-page report, what it will then respond to you with is the most relevant response. And what is great is we read something that's 600 pages. I promise you, you will not remember what's on page 24 or page 50 or page 375. Yet, if you now ask it, okay, well, how about you now find for me all of the risks that are implied but not explicitly stated in this report, then it can go and do that for you. Versus if you were now just to go and do a word search, even with a PDF, and you just search for the word risk, it means that you'll never be able to find those risks that are implied, which just means like it can do thinking on a level that us as humans are actually not capable of doing, because of the amount of variables that it can look at the same time and analyze and give such a rich answer back, which is incredible. I'm still amazed, honestly. So I'm not even going to say that I'm an AI expert, because I still get floored by by just things that that comes out of it, and just seeing how the industry itself is just developing.
That is absolutely fascinating. And just to thinking of I mean, it's so powerful in terms of the efficiency and what it can do. What you almost wonder what people did previously. How did they get that information? Must have taken
I know.
forever.
I know,
And
and that's just it though. We're entering an age where the business model drivers used to be, and I mean still is now, because adoption is still very low. It's still a an hourly based type of exchange that happens. Okay, I have this question, you go and spend X amount of time to read through everything, analyze it, and then come and respond to me. And then all of these EPCM companies, their driver is to sell more hours really to people. So what is going to be interesting is to see, well, how does just work itself evolve when hourly exchange is no longer necessarily the primary driver for monetary benefit, because you can get answers that would have taken 6 weeks for somebody to work on. You can get that now in 3 minutes. So how is work, and what are gonna transform, and what are gonna be really the ways that people are gonna now you know justify their bottom line. So it's going to be interesting, because AI should not be responsible for decision making. Humans are always still going to be necessary, but using AI to actually inform those decisions that you are making, you are then able to make significantly better decisions, because you understand your risks more. You can plan for your risks better. You can optimize your capital spend, all of those things, which again, it's just an interesting age that we're then moving into, really. And the first AI adopters are going to be the people who are going to just leapfrog over others, truly.
I hope you can protect your patent or whatever, because I think you're sitting on something huge here. So well done. I have to say that just sounds absolutely amazing. For an old dinosaur like me, you can imagine how it makes me nervous. But anyway, uh, just I don't talk politics, but I have to ask you this question: Are you bullish, concerned about the mining industry in South Africa? Because the things, when I was in investment banking, I see what we did in those days, and I look at what's happening now. Uh, I'm not very bullish about the industry. What's your sense?
I'm always bullish on mining, though. So I'm the worst kind of person to ask,
Okay.
because, to be fair, I think that everything is seasonal. So there were seasons when I was working in the mining industry in South Africa where nationalization was really topical, and then it also died down. So all in all, I think I'm super, super bullish still, because South African mining, I mean, I joke always, engineers in the mining industry from South Africa is one of our best exports, just because of the amazing amount of experience and the quality of the engineering and the mining that happens there. So I'm bullish, but again, I'm very biased also. So I don't think I'm the
Yeah,
right
no,
person to ask.
absolutely. I mean, obviously stuff like the regulations and BE and things like that can make it quite difficult from a business perspective. It doesn't matter what kind of product you produce, whether you extract it from the ground or not. It's these things happen in South Africa, so that's probably why there are a lot of mining engineers living in Canada and all over the world because of the skills. But yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, look at Chile, who, had inflation that was, in the double digits to triple digits. And the second that they just had a regime changed, mining again started to boom. And I was working on mining projects there whilst the economy was down. It was really hard doing projects there because the team that you worked with changed every 2 months because people were forced to resign and look for another job just so that they can get an increase in pay so that they can actually afford to buy food. So, if it, around the world though, you have the economy is just it's one of the levers that's a driver, but mining always persists through any of those challenges, and work always continues. And then at the second that anything changes also, then it usually just flourishes and booms. So that's why I continue saying I'm very, very bullish, because the
yeah, but
mineral assets in South Africa is enormous, and it's a very rich country.
yeah, well, in Australia and everywhere in the world, as you say, there's opportunity.
When the excitement meets the admin, Apostle is here to help. We help South Africans at home and abroad with documents and visas for travel and immigration. Visit apostle.co.za or call us on 011 083 9830. Apostle, documents with convenience.
Let's get back to just some of the personal stuff. Have you been back to South Africa since you left in 2017?
I have been back. I went back to do the Argus with my dad. That was one of our traditions, and he still carries that strong. And then when I started getting serious with my now husband, I took him back home to meet the family, and he asked my dad for my hand, and we got engaged there. So yeah, been blessed to go back. Need to go back again at some point in time, because my daughter hasn't seen Canada yet. Oh, sorry, South Africa yet.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, the cost of living is at this point in time just so high that it's a little bit hard to just justify trips like that at the moment.
And I think it's going to get very expensive given what's happening now in the Middle East. Airline tickets are going to become pretty expensive for the next foreseeable future, I would imagine. And
Yeah, yeah.
just in general, I mean, this journey of yours, did you find it to be an emotional roller coaster? Have you been up and down and during the time of your immigration, of living, getting to
Um,
Canada
uh,
and living?
I'd say it was a roller coaster, but also I I feel like there was also some extenuating circumstances, because COVID also happened
Oh,
after
cool.
after I moved. And even though COVID was isolating for everybody, no matter where they were, Canada had very, very strict lockdowns for close to 2 years. You weren't allowed to interact with people and move around and do things. So from that way, society as a whole basically just shut down in Canada, and it was quite isolating.
Mm.
Um, so I'd say, anything would be better than that. But I mean, I did also during that time meet my husband, and when you have a young family, then obviously it's just the biggest joy in the whole world. So I'd say the roller coasters that are high at this point in time.
Okay.
But yeah, just the moving away from family and friends is harder than what anybody what anybody necessarily can explain to you in words, before you decide to take that leap, because everybody's filled with bravado also, and
Mm.
things like, oh no, everything is just going to be hunky dory.
I think a lot of us forget, it's easy to forget because it's already almost 6 years since COVID, but the impact that it has had on people, I mean, it's just some of, yeah, we were in South Africa, and it was terrible. But I mean, Europe was bad, everywhere was bad. So it sounds like Canada was rough. So to get through that already makes you a very resilient person. So if you have to advise a young couple or a young professional thinking about a career outside of South Africa, what would your advice be?
Well, I would highly recommend it. Just leap, just do it. You can always go back. Honestly, you can, unless like me, you decide to sprout roots somewhere. But it does open your mind in so many levels, and you do just you gain a perspective that I feel any career benefits from, because your foreign experience will also add significantly to whatever organizations you join and work for and contribute to wherever you go, um, because you get to give a bit of flavor, different way of thinking of things. So it really just like in general, working in multicultural teams, there's a real benefit in that collaboration, just due to the differences in experience that people bring. So I would highly advise it. But again, I like you said, I should maybe go and play that lottery because I have been lucky.
No.
But a lot of people don't necessarily have so much luck in terms of it. I have also heard of people who come over and end up, having an engineering degree and end up, working as cleaners, because they just never was able to necessarily find the right role. Uh, you need to realize that it is a gamble, that you might not end up doing what it is that you planned to do, which again, but it's worthwhile. You can always go back and you can always reinvent yourself. You are never too old to reinvent yourself.
So getting to the end, knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently to what you've done? If you think to where you now.
Well, firstly, I had beautiful furniture and art and wooden pieces that I still to this day regret giving away because people were like, "Oh no, it's so much cheaper to buy abroad." No, it's not. The one thing, don't underestimate just the value of actually what you've accumulated over time. You came out of university and you bought your knives and forks. And then, a year later, you bought your plate set, and you accumulate over time. You don't actually realize just the value that all your possessions, you know, are, and to try and rebuild without bringing stuff that you've accumulated over a long time. It is a bit of a big um a big challenge or a big financial burden that you have to take on if you choose to just come and start from scratch. So don't necessarily just listen to others when it comes to things like that. It's you can wait a couple of months for something on a ship, and it makes a massive difference also if you just have something from home that just warms up your own home. Because a few pieces that I did bring over, oh man, I love them to death. I wish I brought more. But luckily when I go and visit my sister, I see a lot of the pieces though still. But it does also, leave a little bit of a bittersweet thing. But that's a little bit of a superficial answer. But other than that, I think it's just mentally, I don't think anybody can necessarily be prepared just for how big a leap it is. So just do it because it enriches you as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting on the furniture. A lot of people that I've spoken to have the opposite view. We had to donate a 40-foot container because when we arrived in France with all our stuff, the house was too small. We had to give it away. But anyway, so I think again, it's a personal choice, but it is really good to have some of your stuff, and it just makes it more feel like home. So I totally agree with you. Now, I mean, it's yeah. This journey is I think it just enriches you. It makes life interesting, and I think you've just shown us, what resilience can do, and building a business like this. I think we're going to hear of this business in the future. So absolutely
Let's
well
hope.
done. And thank you so much for sharing your story. If people want to find out more, I suppose they can find you on LinkedIn. And the website is MindGPT.ai.
Yes, indeed.
So we'll put it on the show notes. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, and thanks for making time to come on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jan. It was a pleasure. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
So if this episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might find it interesting. You can also find more episodes of The Relocated South African on your favorite podcast platform, or visit our website, therelocatedSouthAfrican.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.